Before Toys R Us went bankrupt, it was paying $400 to $500 million a year in interest. Not to buy toys, not to open stores, not to fix the broken shelves or retrain the staff or build a website. Just interest. And while that was happening, while the company bled $500 million a year, servicing debt it never chose, 3 private equity firms quietly collected $464 million in fees from the same business. Everyone blamed Amazon. Everyone was wrong. Here's what actually happened. And by the end, you're going to understand a financial model so profitable, it makes money even when the company dies. Especially when the company dies. Charles Lazarus opened a children's furniture shop in Washington, D.C. in 1948. He was 24 years old. His dad had run a bike repair shop. The instinct for spotting what people needed? He got it early. He looked around and noticed something. Soldiers coming home from World War II were marrying fast, having kids fast, and buying everything they needed to set up a home. Baby furniture was flying out the door. Then he noticed something sharper. Parents buy one crib, but they'll buy toys forever. So in 1957, he opened a new store in Rockville, Maryland. Toys only. No furniture. All in. That was the first real Toys R Us. The backward R in the logo, designed to look like a child had written it. Not an accident. That was Charles telling you exactly who the store was for. At their peak, Toys R Us had 1,450 stores. They controlled 25% of the US toy market. Not a solid chunk, a quarter, of the entire American toy industry. And if you grew up in the 80s or 90s, you know what that meant. The jingle, the smell, the Christmas Eve walkthrough with your parents, running your finger along shelves that went on forever. Geoffrey the giraffe, the sheer amount of stuff. It wasn't just a shop, it was a ritual. That's what existed in 2005. A global icon, 33,000 employees, a brand baked into the childhoods of millions. What happened next was not a mistake. In 2005, 3 firms announced they were buying Toys R Us: KKR, Bain Capital, and Vornado Realty Trust. The price tag, $6.6 billion. Here's the thing. They didn't just hand over $6.6 billion. They put in $1.2 billion of their own money. The other $5.3 billion they borrowed. And then, this is the part that matters. They put that debt on Toys R Us itself. Not on their own books. On the company they'd just bought. Think about it like this. You want to buy your neighbour's house. It costs £600,000. You put in £120,000 of your own cash. You borrow the other £480,000 from the bank. And then, somehow, you make the house pay the mortgage. Not you, the house. That's a leveraged buyout. The company you acquired pays for its own acquisition. And from day one, every penny Toys R Us earned had to go to the debt first. Before staff, before stock, before stores. But they didn't stop there. Almost immediately after signing the deal, KKR, Bain and Vornado set up what's called an advisory agreement. $15 million a year in management fees, rising 5% every year. For services they were not actually required to provide. Drop a comment. If someone used your company as collateral to buy it, then build you $15 million a year for the privilege. At what point would you have walked? Now here's where Amazon comes in. Because everyone loves blaming Amazon. And Amazon did play a role, just not the one you think. Back in 2000, 5 years before the buyout, Toys R Us made a genuinely terrible decision. They signed a deal with Amazon to run ToysRUs.com as the exclusive online toy retailer. Toys R Us paid Amazon $50 million a year for this, plus a cut of every sale. The thinking, outsource the digital side, let Amazon handle it, focus on the stores. What actually happened? Amazon learned everything there is to know about selling toys. They absorbed the customer data, the buying patterns, the seasonal spikes. And at some point before Toys R Us's lawsuit in 2004, They let other toy sellers onto the platform, right next to Toys R Us's own products. Toys R Us sued. They won in 2006. The court ruled Amazon had breached the agreement, but the judge's observation cut through the legal win. The money couldn't buy back the years they'd lost. So when KKR and Bain took over in 2005, Toys R Us had no real digital infrastructure. Fixable problem? Probably. There was still time, but fixing it costs money. And money was going to the debt. The debt structure made the choice for them. No investment in e-commerce. Stores got less maintenance. Floor cleaning dropped from weekly to monthly. Small things. That compounded. Here's the stat that ends the Amazon argument. Walmart faced the same Amazon pressure. Target faced it. Best Buy faced it. All three survived. You know what they didn't have? $5 billion in private equity debt sitting on top of them. Amazon didn't kill Toys R Us. Amazon was just the excuse. September 2017. Toys R Us files for bankruptcy. At that moment, the company is carrying approximately $5 billion in debt and spending $400 to $500 million a year just in interest before a single toy is bought, shipped, or stocked. The plan was to use bankruptcy protection to finally cut the debt load and reinvest. For a brief moment, executives actually believed it might work. It didn't. That Christmas, 2017, suppliers started demanding payment up front, or refusing to ship at all. Because in a bankruptcy, suppliers are near the bottom of the queue, behind the banks, often behind the private equity firm's own debt instruments. The suppliers had seen this before. They weren't taking any chances. Shelves thinned. Customers noticed. Sales collapsed further. The thing that was meant to save the company made it worse. March 2018. Full US liquidation. 735 stores. All closing. A week later, Charles Lazarus, the founder, 94 years old, died. He had watched what was happening to the company he'd built from a single furniture shop in Washington, D.C. The official statement called it heartbreaking. He outlived his creation by 7 days. 33,000 workers lost their jobs. The severance workers had been promised was cancelled. They were eventually offered around $60 each in a court settlement, based on a total payout of roughly $2 million split across 33,000 people. KKR and Bain Capital set up a $20 million hardship fund. Sounds significant. The management fee they charged in a single year was $15 million minimum, rising every year. Vornado, the third firm, declined to contribute anything at all. Congress noticed. In 2018, senators confronted KKR and Bain executives directly. Did you profit while running this company into the ground? The answer, the market changed. Amazon was disruptive. Structural headwinds in retail. No mention of $400 million a year in interest. No acknowledgement that you cannot reinvest in a business while spending $500 million annually just servicing debt. Creditors sued, alleging breach of fiduciary duty, specifically targeting the management fees collected as the business deteriorated. The financial picture is not complicated. KKR, Bain, and Vornado put in $1.2 billion. They got that back. They collected $464 million on top in advisory fees, expenses, and interest on their own debt instruments. The banks got partial repayment. 33,000 workers got roughly $60 each. And here's why the model works even in failure. If the company succeeds, the PE firm profits from the equity going up. If it fails, if it actually goes bankrupt, the firm has often already recovered its money through fees, through interest on its own debt instruments, through what's called a dividend recapitalization, where you borrow more money from the company and pay it straight to yourself before the crash lands. The risk is asymmetric by design. Heads they win, tails the company loses. Bain Capital is the same firm co-founded by Mitt Romney. Its retail record includes Jim Bory, which went bankrupt in 2017 following a Bain Capital leveraged buyout, closing around 350 stores. Private equity firms have run this same playbook across retail more broadly. Payless Shoe Source, whose PE owners extracted hundreds of millions in dividends before bankruptcy. Sears, The Limited. Between 2005 and 2020, private equity-backed bankruptcies closed approximately 18,000 retail stores and eliminated 542,000 jobs. The brand technically survived. A company called True Kids reopened small-format Toys R Us stores in 2019. 2 of them. The pandemic closed them. In 2021, WHP Global acquired the brand. You can now find Toys R Us sections inside over 400 Macy's locations. But the 735 full-size stores, the warehouse of wonder, aisle after aisle dedicated entirely to one thing, that's gone. The workers got roughly $60 each. The firms took $464 million. No criminal charges were filed. The advisory agreements were entirely legal. Here's what should bother you most. Charles Lazarus built Toys R Us on one idea: repeat business. You sell a child a toy. The toy breaks. The child comes back. Parents become loyal. The brand compounds over decades. Patience, reinvestment, longevity. KKR, Bain and Vornado ran the exact opposite model. Extract the maximum. Load the debt onto the asset. Charge fees regardless of performance. Walk away when it falls. One model built 1,450 stores over 57 years. The other extracted $464 million in 12 years and left 33,000 people with $60. Amazon didn't kill Toys R Us. Debt did. And the debt was placed there deliberately by people who understood exactly what they were doing and who profited from it even after the collapse. The question you should actually be asking is this: if this model is legal, works even in failure, and has already been applied to thousands of retailers, what exactly is stopping them from doing it again? If you want more of these, real stories, real numbers, no spin, subscribe. I do one every week. And drop in the comments, which company do you want me to cover next? Because I've already got something lined up, and it's worse than this one.